You may call your next witness.
State calls Katie Lahnstein.
Could you get Katie Lahnstein? Thank you.
Safe travels. Ma'am, if you would please raise your right hand and take an oath. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give to the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. If you would, please speak towards the microphone, and if you would state and spell your name for the record.
Yes, my full name is Katherine Lahnstein, Katherine, Lahnstein, but everybody calls me Katie.
All right. Ms. Lahnstein, what professional field are you involved in?
I'm an attorney.
Okay. And where did you attend law school?
Here at the University of Georgia.
And what years did you attend school at the University of Georgia?
2000 to 2003.
Before you got to UGA, where did you complete your undergraduate degree?
At the University of Virginia in Charlottesville.
All right. And in law school, can you describe the way during the first year of law school that the student body is divided?
Yes, so we're divided into 3 sections, X, Y, and Z. And you have all of your classes with the folks that are in your section for your entire first year.
And while you were in law school, did you ever meet an individual named Tara Louise Baker?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And when did you meet Tara?
Very first day of law school. We were in orientation, and that was the moment.
And so when you say that was the moment, it seems like it was a quick friendship. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes. Literally from that moment, Tara and I and another woman named Jenya became very good friends. I don't remember many moments of law school after that we weren't together, studying, walking, anything.
All right. So can you explain to the jury kind of the academic rigor involved in that first year of law school?
Yes, exhausting. You are in class 5 to 8 hours a day, then you are studying another 5 to 6 hours a day. If you're lucky, you sleep some, eat some, but it is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life.
That experience, and in particular, sharing it with the same people in every class, did you find that to increase or impact the way relationships were forged at all?
Yes. You form these bonds through the stress that you're going through. You're all learning the same thing, you're all studying the same things, and you're all exhausted in the same way. People would form friendships that would turn into marriages. People would form friendships that turned into lifelong friendships. It's just unlike anything I've been through before. It's like being in the trenches, I suppose, although, I don't know other way to describe it.
All right. And so would you say that would you characterize your relationship with Ms. Baker as falling into that category of relationships?
Yes, I would say from early on, I have called her one of my best friends. And I know it feels too short, but I don't know how to describe it other than if you don't go through that sort of very difficult thing with someone and it bonds you in this really particular way.
And as it relates, I think you've already testified to this, but there are 3 sections. You take all your classes with that section that you're in. Is that right?
Yes, first and second semester, your whole first year.
Okay. I'm going to show, Your Honor, Mr. Cruz, what's marked as State's Exhibit 34. And, Your Honor, I ask for permission to approach the witness and then continue to move freely through the well of the court as I question her. Ms. Lahnstein, I'm going to hand you State's Exhibit 34. I'm going to ask you to take a look at that. Once you've had a chance to review it, let me know.
Yes, I have seen it.
Okay.
I've looked at it.
Do you recognize it?
Yes, this is the schedule from our second semester, so in beginning of January 2001 here at law school. Mhm.
Does that appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of what your schedule was for that semester of law school beginning in January of 2001?
It does.
Judge, I move to tender states 34 at this time.
Any objection, Mr. Cruz? It is admitted.
And, Your Honor, I'm not going to necessarily ask to publish this to the jury at this point, but I'm going to hand it back to Ms. Lahnstein. As it relates to Fridays for y'all, did y'all have classes on Fridays?
Yes.
All right. And what classes did you have?
We had property property, tort, and civil procedure.
Okay. And property, was that the first class of the day?
Yes.
All right. And what time did that property class start?
9:30 in the morning.
Okay. And I don't think we covered this, but are you still practicing law?
Yes, I am.
All right. Where do you practice law?
I live in Washington, D.C., and I work for an agency called the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation.
And so backing up now, back to January of 2001, I want to ask you about a Thursday evening, which would have been January 18th of 2001. Would you and Miss Baker ever study together?
Frequently, if not every day.
Okay. And so where would y'all study when you studied?
So the law library always, but there are different parts of the law library. There's this sort of first room you come into that has these big windows and it's very sun-filled, but it's a more casual part where people sometimes have conversations. So sometimes you would study there if you were doing a study group or if you were just reading and it wasn't too intense. And then there's this walkway you can go through and you go into the quiet part of the library. And that's where you would go if you were studying for an exam, trying to write a paper, trying to focus.
Okay. And so that evening on that Thursday, were you and Miss Baker studying together?
Yes, we were in the quiet part of the library.
Okay. And as best you recall, I recognize as we sit here, it's been over 25 years since that night. Do you recall about when Miss Baker may have arrived at the law library to study with you?
Yes, I think she got there around 7:30.
Okay. And do you recall what y'all may have been working on?
I believe it was a paper. It was definitely more than just like marking our law books because we both had our computers. So I believe we were writing something. And I know it sounds early because it was early in the semester, but that's just law school for you.
And as it relates to kind of that semester and Miss Baker's plans, was she approaching that semester with any kind of renewed or, I guess, elevated level of commitment to her grades?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we all were, but she was the most organized, so she had a definite plan, whereas people like me were like, I'll try harder. But the end of our first semester was probably a bit of a shock to all of us, or, grades are hard. So her plan was to be more rigorous about her time in the library and to sort of make it into a job, like ending time, definite stay for the whole period.
And is there any particular ending time that you recall that Miss Baker was committed to?
Yes, it was 10 p.m.
Okay. So that evening, did you stay till 10 p.m.?
I did not. I had been at the library before. She had joined me there. So at that point, I was ready earlier than she was to go home. So I probably left around, I want to say around 9. Could have been a little bit later, but probably around 9.
Okay. And so was Miss Baker the type of person who had a lot of concern for the people around her?
Yes. I had to walk to school from based on where I lived. I lived just over the railroad tracks, above where the Blind Pig Tavern used to be. And so not the safest of routes. So anytime I had left the library or school or anywhere before her, she would insist that I call her when I got home.
And so the area that you're describing, please correct me if I'm incorrect, but if you come down East Campus Road going from North Campus to South Campus, and you turn left onto Research Drive, I believe it is. It goes by that area that you're talking about.
I think that's right.
Yeah, sorry.
No, sorry.
Go ahead, but I think I misnamed that street, but if you turn left underneath where the railroad tracks go over, is that what you're talking about?
It's in that direction, yes. It's actually been torn down and is a parking lot now, but that's the right direction, yes.
Okay. And so did she had that concern, did she ask you to do anything? Well, and that's going to call for hearsay. So I'm going to withdraw that question, Your Honor. Were you supposed to do anything when you got home?
Yes, I was supposed to call her when I got home, and I did not.
All right. And so did you receive a phone call that evening?
Yes, she called me about 9:30, maybe 9:45, and then she admonished me, scolded me because I had failed to call her, but I just didn't mean anything bad. I just forgot.
Okay. Do you need a cup of water or a moment?
I have some. Thank you so much.
There's some tissues over there beside you if you see them and need them. Is that the last time you ever talked to Tara?
Yeah. I think the last thing she ever said to me was I said, hello, and she said, you did not call me. And I said, I know, I'm so sorry. And she said, but you're okay? I said, I am. And she said, all right, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And that was kind of it.
So when you say I'll talk to you tomorrow, this is Thursday night.
Yes.
So tomorrow would be Friday, January 19th, 2001. Is that right?
Yes.
I would just object to leading questions. I've given counsel leeway. I didn't want to just make.
All right.
I would ask the court to instruct them to ask appropriate questions.
All right, I'm going to sustain that objection. If you will rephrase your questions to be non-leading.
Yes, Your Honor. What day would the next day have been?
January 19th, 2001.
And what day of the week would that have been?
Friday.
Okay. And so on Friday, what would y'all's first class of the day have been?
I believe it was property.
All right. And I think we already talked about this, but about what time did that start?
At 9:30 in the morning.
Was Tara in class?
No, she was not.
Was that something that was unusual for Tara?
It was. And we did, I recall my friends and I discussing it, but we thought, well, it's her birthday weekend. Maybe she slept in,
Okay. Did she show up for any of her classes after that?
No.
I'm making the same objection. We've had 3 leading questions. That the state asks questions appropriately.
All right, so the prior 2 questions were leading. I'm going to sustain your objection with regard to that and ask the state to make sure that you rephrase and you don't lead your witness. The last question was actually not a leading question, so I'll overrule your objection with regard to the last question. You may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I think the last question I asked you is, did Tara show up for any of your classes that day?
She did not show up for any of our classes. No.
Okay. Were there any plans that y'all had for that evening?
Yes. As I said, it was her birthday weekend. So we had all planned to meet at a bar called The Winery just after class. And we did go. Her friends and I went, and she was not there.
Okay. When did you find out what had happened to Tara?
The next morning on January 20th.
Okay. How is it that you learned about Tara's murder?
A friend of mine from law school named Jim Davis called me, and he said, Katie, I'm so sorry, but Tara's died. And I yelled at him, and I was very mean. And I told him he was not funny, and then I hung up on him. And then I called our friends. We called them the Ericks because they lived in the same house. So I called the Ericks, and one of them answered. And I said, Eric, Jim has said the most insane thing to me. And he said that Tara died. So I need you to go get your paper and tell me he's wrong. And he did. He went out, and when he came back onto the line, he was just very shaken. And he said, "Katie, I'm sorry. She died. I don't remember her."
Any response, Mr. Yellowman-Shilley, with regard to the hearsay objection?
Ms. Lahnstein, I think the court's instruction to you would be, and my instruction is that please don't talk about in your answer anything anyone else said to you.
Fair enough.
Any objection? Continue.
I apologize. After that, I asked the friend that I was with to get me a newspaper. So that person did purchase me a newspaper. And then I saw the headline, student slain, and then the next thing I remember is I fell down, and then I started crying, and I don't know when I stopped, but that's how I found out.
I want to ask you a little more about your relationship with Tara. And I think, Jenya also seems to have been part of this group. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Would Tara share things with y'all that she didn't share with kind of the rest of the law school section and class?
That is my perception, yes.
Okay. Was there anything related to her last name that she shared with you that she didn't share with the rest of the law school section and class, to your knowledge?
Yes. To my knowledge, this was something she kept a little more private. Her name had been Barker. It was the name of the man who was her biological father, and she had changed it pretty close to law school, from my understanding, to Baker, which is the man she calls her daddy, his last name.
Okay. Were you aware of whether or not Tara was dating anyone?
Yes.
Okay. And who is that person, if you know?
His name was Chris. I'm sorry, I don't remember his last name, but yes, she was dating Chris, and she'd been dating him for a while, as far as I knew.
Did Tara, and I'm not asking you to get into anything Tara said to you, okay, but did she ever talk to you about Chris?
Yes, in a very normal way. We talked about our friends, we talked about our families, we talked about our relationships. I myself was in a relationship with at a time, so we shared stories like that.
What was, based on those conversations with Tara, what was your impression of their relationship?
That it was good. She was positive. She would smile when she talked about him. No, nothing except for happy.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you very much, Ms. Lahnstein.
Cross-examination, Mr. Cruz.
Sorry for your loss, Ms. Lahnstein. Your Honor, I do not have any questions, but I would ask if we could approach.